Up with KREM begins now.
Here we go here on your Monday morning. Welcome to Up with KREM and streaming on KREM 2+. I'm Tim Pham.
And I'm Nicole Hernandez. And I don't know if you know, but this week is the start of summer officially. Very exciting.
It's felt like it.
It has, for sure. We have meteorologist Thomas Patrick here with us. Thomas, will it feel like summer?
Yeah, so it'll feel like summer to start the week. Maybe not to finish the week here. Well, that's why I always go by the meteorological seasons. The first day of June is the start of meteorological summer, statistically speaking. It actually feels the part. Oftentimes in June, we've already hit 90 degrees a couple of these days. But this week is going to be kind of an odd one. Things are okay this morning, 40s and 50s for the inland northwest, and then warming easily into the mid-80s this afternoon. Got to use the AC. It's certainly feeling like summer. But things just steadily cool off through the week, and then when we hit the weekend, we actually take a big step down. So we got a lot to track in that extended outlook later on in the week.
Taking a quick look at traffic this morning, look at I-90 and Freya. Things moving perfectly smoothly. This is a spot that typically around 8 a.m. we start to see some backups, but none of that happening yet. We'll of course keep an eye on weather and traffic every 30 minutes here on Up with KREM.
Breaking overnight, the man accused of shooting two Minnesota lawmakers has been taken into custody. Officials say Vance Bolter was found near his home in Minnesota. Police say the 57-year-old was impersonating a police officer when he showed up at the lawmakers' homes and opened fire. Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark were killed. State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette were wounded. Both are recovering from their injuries. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says the shootings were politically motivated. Police say they believe the suspect acted alone in the shootings. He now faces murder charges.
And while the governor says this was politically motivated, police have not said what they think the motive was. A man carjacked multiple people in both Washington and Idaho, killing somebody in the process. He led police on a high-speed chase, ending an officer shooting and killing him.
KREM 2's Regan Gallo breaks down what happened in a series of crimes that spanned across the state line.
A father and daughter were waiting in line in their car at the Whistle Stop coffee shop when a suspect approached them and stole their vehicle at gunpoint. The suspect then drove away, reaching speeds up to 140 miles per hour on I-90, setting off a chain of tragic events that would soon follow.
I mean, on a Sunday morning, it's kind of a slower pace to start out. Not really expecting anything like that to happen.
Jeff Moreland and his family has owned the Whistle Stop coffee shop since 2007. And what he initially assumed was a typical Father's Day morning with traffic at his coffee stand quickly turned into a frightening scene.
The car was actually parked right here, waiting in line for coffee. And that's where it all really happened, is they were a couple cars away from being at the window.
The Spokane County Sheriff's Office reports the suspect had an AR-15 rifle and a 9mm handgun in their possession. What you're looking at right now is security footage we received from the coffee shop owner of the suspect walking over to the dad and daughter in their vehicle. The suspect is seen with a weapon in his hand, and shortly after, the dad and daughter exit the vehicle as the suspect later then takes off. After leaving the coffee shop, the suspect quickly got onto I-90 heading towards Idaho.
Speeds were estimated at over 140 miles an hour of the suspect. Law enforcement were not able to catch up to the suspect vehicle.
That's when reports came in of another carjacking attempt, this time at the State Line Village.
We had an aggravated assault with a vehicle. We had 3 attempted carjackings. We had another successful carjacking, and we had a murder.
Authorities say at the State Line Village, the suspect intentionally hit a motorcyclist, stole another vehicle, and started heading back towards Spokane Valley. But before the suspect left State Line, they shot a Good Samaritan trying to help a woman who was victim of one of those carjacking attempts, which resulted in the Good Samaritan being killed.
I believe that he saw a woman that was in distress, and he went to the aid, and unfortunately, he did pay the highest price for it.
As the suspect went back towards Spokane Valley, that's when there was one more carjacking attempt in the East Valley area. Authorities responded yet again, and reports say the suspect was shooting outside his car window at law enforcement. The suspect was finally located on Trenton Pines, where the suspect hit a civilian car and a Washington State Patrol vehicle. WSP troopers were already in the area patrolling a separate vehicle crash. When they were alerted, the suspect was on their way to that same area, which gave them time to block the roadway. Shortly after, the suspect fired more shots after crashing. They then exited the stolen truck, and law enforcement advised shots had been fired and the suspect was down. Soon after, the suspect was pronounced dead at the scene.
What happened out in State Line could have easily been right here.
I want to emphasize how professionally, how swiftly, and how decisively law enforcement acted in this very dangerous moment. It was dangerous for them. It was dangerous for the public. They didn't hesitate, and I'm proud of them.
Now this investigation is still ongoing, which means details can still change. The Spokane Independent Investigative Response Team is currently conducting their own investigation. And of course, as we learn more details about the suspect and all those impacted, we will of course keep our viewers updated. I'm reporting in the newsroom at Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
This morning, 11 people are facing failing to disperse charges after the No Kings protest in Spokane.
Thousands of people lined downtown Spokane streets for hours and were peaceful most of the day. The only clash between protesters and law enforcement was later at night around 9 o'clock. SPD says they ordered people to leave because they were blocking roads. Officers deployed smoke and pepper balls for the people refusing to leave. Of the 11 arrested, only one faces charges of malicious mischief for spray painting on city property. There were several other protests around the inland northwest. This one here was in Sandpoint. People lined the main drag in town holding signs and cheering. As people drove by, many were honking in support.
Meantime, in Seattle, at least 70,000 protesters marched through downtown. The Seattle Police Department said there were no confrontations and no property damage and thanked the group on social media. This comes just a few days after the anti-ICE protests that turned into riots in Seattle, leading to a handful of arrests.
Over in Portland, Oregon, officers arrested 3 people. Police declared an unlawful assembly, then a riot outside of an ICE facility. Some of the protesters broke the glass on the doors of the building. Police then deployed tear gas and pepper balls. Agents set up a perimeter around the entrance to the facility. The Portland Police Bureau says a federal officer was injured in all of this.
Across the country, other No Kings protests took place from Hawaii to Philadelphia. On your screen right now is Austin, Texas. Governor Greg Abbott deployed more than 7,000 troops to cities across the state to assist local law enforcement. The Austin Police Department says with the exception of a small group of agitators, the event remained peaceful. While most protests across the country were peaceful, there was a deadly shooting at a No Kings protest in Salt Lake City, Utah. A man who police believe was a part of a peacekeeping team shot at a person who had a rifle. The man hit both the person with the rifle and a bystander. Police confirming the bystander died at a hospital.
No one should fear coming to a demonstration, peaceful and lawful demonstration in our city. And what happened last night was sudden and alarming and not representative of our values here in Salt Lake City or in our state here in Utah.
Salt Lake police are still investigating the shooting. They do not know why the suspected shooter fired their weapon. These protests coincided with the Army's 250th birthday, which also happened to be President Trump's 79th birthday.
So he hosted a parade. That parade had 6,500 members of the military in U.S. Army uniforms and military equipment through the decades. It's estimated the festival and parade cost between $25 and $45 million. When asked about the cost during a congressional hearing, Army Secretary Driscoll said he thinks it will lead to higher military recruitment.
A developing situation this morning. Hundreds of immigrants in Washington are confused after they were asked to show up at a Department of Homeland Security office in Tukwila over the weekend, despite the office being closed. It all started with a mobile alert sent on Friday. It went to hundreds of non-citizens in ISAP, a program that uses ankle bracelets and other monitoring instead of detention. The notice sparked protests and left people questioning whether the alert was real or not. An immigration attorney says check-ins are normal, but this one was not.
It's unusual because it gave people less than 24 hours notice in order to check in, and that they were ordering them to check in on a weekend, which is atypical and something that never happens.
In a Facebook post, Tukwila police initially said the notification was not believed to be valid. They then revised their statement and said they had received conflicting information. Our Seattle sister station reached out to ICE, but the agency declined to comment.